Welcome to an episode of The Diplomats. Even rare, maybe the only kind of time you'll hear an episode like this, where yours truly, Go Horns Go, won an actual diplomacy tournament. I've been close many times, but no figurative cigar, although I always have a regular cigar handy. And I'm here to discuss my tremendous, incredible, unprecedented victory with Umble the Heap, my normal podcast partner. But Umble, say hello. And before you do, though, tell us about diplomacybriefing.com, our sponsor.
Yeah, so I'm excited to be here in a to do an episode that I would have, if you would have asked me 2 years ago, um, would I ever be doing an episode like this? I would say no, there's no way this isn't going to happen. Um, and of course, here we are, a winner. Talking about your tournament win, it's very exciting. Diplomacy Briefing is also chronicled this win in several different ways. This Friday's issue that went out had links to several commentaries on this tournament, but then also included Ed's excellent article on how he won and kind of his pathway to the championship, which is just a great read. Encourage everybody to go over to diplomacybriefing.com and read it, but then also to sign up so that you get updated on everything that's happening all around the diplomacy community. It's free. Just diplomacybriefing.com, and you can sign up there and also follow us on social media.
Okay. Thank you very much. And I enjoyed writing that Champions Corner post. And I tried to thank all the people, including you, in a couple of places for helping me improve my game such that I could take what you taught me about tactics and diplomacy and try and apply it to my own style.
Well, I think this win was completely, you. But the only thing that some people might have really anticipated a lot of was just encouraging you to, make that to go for it and to have confidence to go for it. But I mean, you won this game, your way. This was a completely Ed win. So I think there's going to be a lot that people can learn from us going over this game with how you approached it.
Okay. So I'll tell you about first is the players, because that's always important to me. We can see here Austria was Jason Massbaum, who's a very good diplomacy player, the subject of a lot of kidding and jokes from DBN. I've played with him before. He's a very tough negotiator. Uh, England was played by Melinda Hawley, who's a longtime hobbyist. As David Hood believes she's probably played more games of diplomacy than anyone. I worked with her successfully before in another game where I was Germany and she was France. France was John Archbold, who played Italy in your game one of Cascadia, which we chronicled on an earlier episode. Tommy Anderson is a top world virtual face-to-face player. I think they call him Tommy the Tombstone Anderson. He was playing Italy. I've played him a couple times before, and he's always been good. Ben Kelman was Russia. I consider Ben a friend in the game of diplomacy. We have seemed to have been on a lot of boards together, including the top board at Carnage. And then Riaz was a player I'm also familiar with playing Turkey, also in the DBN Invitational, a fantastic face-to-face regular player and a really good gunboat player, moderator on Nexus, always seeming to come on top of standings. So I thought overall this looked like a pretty good board. And the only person I didn't know, I played one game with him before, but didn't really know him that well, was John Archbold of France.
Okay, I didn't realize Riaz was now moderator on Nexus.
He is. He is a
Interesting.
moderator there. Yeah.
Okay.
So, my negotiations, this is a very strange game, right? I talked to John as France, uh, got to know him, where he was from. That's how I always start my games. I introduce myself and tell him a little bit about myself and ask him to do the same. And I got information about what he does and life. And then he just seemed super enthused about an FG. It felt genuine to me, and that was great. Uh, I went to talk to Melinda. Same thing. We were like, okay, been here, done that. We've worked together. And so I worked together with you. And, we didn't engage in an extended conversation. We didn't really bond too much with Melinda, but I had spent hours with her bonding. So I felt like I was pretty good with her. I tried to talk to, everybody else. The only real conversation of note was with Jason Massbaum. Uh, you know, we were talking in spring 1901, and he says, "Hey, I'm like right behind you in the tournament standings," and I actually had no idea because
Yeah, you should not give out that information.
all I did was look at my place. Uh, and he goes, "This game's basically, just going to come down to you or me." And I'm like I said, Jason, I don't know how to take that statement. Are you saying we should try and work together as Germany and Austria to share a board top, or are you just saying we should attack each other? And he's like, I don't know. I'm just telling you that one of us is going to have to get the jump on the other. He literally said words to that effect, and I was like,
Well,
okay, all right. Well, I go, have a nice game.
if I think if I'm competing with Ed on a board and it's going to be between me and him for the championship, I would prefer him not to know that I'm his biggest, his biggest competition because, you play this long enough. Ed's pretty good working with personalities. So I would not be giving out. Well, let me say it this way. Information is probably one of the most important advantages you can have in diplomacy. And knowing who your competition is and other people not knowing that is super important. So, and how the scoring system works and these kind of things. Like, it's very, very important. And I would not be giving out any of that information.
Right. The only real thing I knew about anyone else was that Russia and Riaz were kind of both in competition for DBNI, right? They really wanted to make the invitational. And so I thought that would be a good motivation for them. But, that would be more end game with Turkey. But so here we go. I didn't commit to either England or France. Just went ahead and did what I consider standard moves.
Okay. So what about the channel? Did you know about that move?
I did. Here's the backstory on that, which is uh, France and England both told me that they were uh, DMZing the channel, and kind of before adjudication, I didn't go in a room with John, but I texted him something like, "If you really want to do an FG, the channel is going to be open for sure because Melinda is going to keep her word on that, and that will show a lot of trust." And he's like,
Yeah.
he goes, "Well, will you help me into Belgium then?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." So that's and I didn't know for sure he was going to do it until I saw the moves adjudicate. He didn't
Okay.
definitively tell me.
So you put it out there.
I put it out there as a suggestion if you
Now,
really
what was
wanted to do
your
the FG.
reasoning there just so you get a commitment so you could make a choice between them, or were you very much like, yeah, I want to do this with John this game?
No, the former. I
Mhm.
I like keeping my options open, but I'm not super. Typically, what I like to do is Germany, is to try and get them tangled up, meaning England and France a little bit,
Mhm.
and then let me look. Okay,
Ju-
go after Russia here a little bit, or help one against the other, and that's purely what I was trying to do.
You better I think this game is going to shed a lot of virtual misconceptions about Ed and his game that I feel have been overlooked. I listened to some of this virtual league stuff and kept talking about Ed this and Ed that, and I'm thinking to myself, you don't know the Ed that I do, and so I'm trying to pull out I'm trying to pull out a little bit more of the string pulling that Ed can do that he acts like he doesn't do. So I'm going to try in this game to get a little more out of you to show that he's not the teddy bear all the time that he he sometimes persuades
No, you
people
said
he
it the
is.
wrong way. I help people do the things that they want to do.
Yeah, okay. No,
uh,
I mean, this is really good because if you can get France or England to make a commitment, you always want your options to be very easy for you. And so you don't want to have to make guesses who's the real, ally that I'm going to do. Like if you already have two people fighting, then you get to choose who's going to be the best because they both want you to work with you. So this is a great start for you.
so happy here, and then happy not to have to support either into Belgium because now I have the excuse of that Tyrolean army,
Yeah, that's good.
which is unlikely, right, to go to Munich, but it allows me to make plausible deniability here at some level.
I
Um,
would like to see more Germans go to Tyrolia in the beginning game, especially if you think that if you're not making a play on Belgium anyway. I think a lot of times the better thing could just be go to Tyrolia, especially if you think there's going to be some AI fighting. And not only that, maybe you want maybe you want Italy or Austria to die quick. Maybe, I mean, usually on a strategic goal, that's not great, but depending on who's playing, you may want that.
it's kind of
So
rarely done, right? It'd be interesting to see.
I think
Um,
it should be done more. I haven't got a chance to do it, and it's something in the back of my mind that, I mean, I don't know that I would, but I haven't got a chance as Germany to really do it since I've been thinking about it, and I've seen it done by some players, and I thought, that could really be useful because a lot of times as Germany, you know, a lot of times you'd rather there be a bounce in Belgium, and not get somebody in there and instead use your army to at least, do something there in the south.
so the next series of decisions are sort of now based on my experience, particularly playing with you or talking the game through with you in our mini episodes, and a game I played particularly with Conrad Woodring when we played in FG. So I'm in Denmark, uh,
Right.
and then the question is, do I bounce Russia or not? So I'm going through my humble checklist. Was there
Hmm.
a bounce in Galicia? Yes. Is Russia under threat from Turkey? Yes, maybe. Not sure.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I'm also friends with Ben. So, not that friendship would drive the decision, but I figure I'm going to need to build and continue to build that relationship.
Sure.
And so I'm automatically like, I'm cool with letting Russia right now go into Sweden. So
Yeah,
that's a done deal.
I think that's a good decision. Yeah.
So once I made that decision, I know I'm moving back to Munich, and I know I'm getting Holland with Berlin. The question is what to do with Denmark.
Now is England
Now,
pushing you for that bounce?
didn't ask.
See, that's a mistake. That's a mistake. You've got to always explore. To me, you got to explore all these options. And as England, there's no great benefit for Russia growing unless you feel like there's an an FG coming at you, and that Russia is going to maybe be of help. Maybe they'll help keep you alive a little bit longer.
Yeah. I mean,
But
I'm not sure it would have persuaded me because Ben was under, when I talked to him, he was like, I don't think I'm getting Romania.
yeah,
I don't think I'm getting two. I'm not building north. I gotta just try and save myself. It was a
yeah,
little desperate, right? So I'm like, okay. The big question for me was, England's got a lot of decisions to make here about, you know, uh, what she's gonna do. She tells me she'll support me into Belgium, and she's gonna cover London with York, and I believe her because she has no
yeah.
reason not to believe me at this point.
Hmm.
So I'm like, okay, so the North Sea's open. North Sea can
Hmm.
be taken. The question is with which fleet? And in this exact position, I put
You take it.
Conrad into the North Sea from Denmark. But him only getting one build caused him to be very weak against Russia. And as much as I really didn't want to put France in the North Sea, I made that offer to him, and he was pumped about it. You
Yeah.
know, he's like, "Why would you want to do that?" And I'm like, "Because it helps our position as a team. It's the right thing to do."
See, I thought you would have tried to get him to support you in.
Mm. I wanted to build trust with him, uh, you know, and so
Interesting.
I wanted two builds. I wanted to
Well, you would
stay
have got two. You would have gone to. Oh, you wanted to cover Munich. You were for sure.
correct.
Okay.
So yeah, because when I saw the one time where you only had a one build Germany with Conrad, it really
Yeah.
slowed him down.
Okay.
So this is what I did.
Okay.
So I put France in there, put Russia into Sweden, and
Oh, okay. Hold up for a second. And I was going to mention this before you changed it. One of the nifty little things you can do as Russia in this situation, if you really think Turkey's going to be doing his, this whole little game, and it really stinks for Turkey when you do this. What you do is you do Sev to Black Sea and Ukraine to Sev, and you let Turkey go into Romania because he can't hold it, right? So you bounce everything, make him commit to that, and his entire game is done. Because Austria and Italy are going to smell blood. He's not going to be able to get Bulgaria, right? So he's going to lose Bulgaria and Romania the next turn. That's how you punish the move to Armenia.
oh,
You
I
just
think
don't
that's
contest.
great.
You don't contest Romania. You let him overextend, and then you just crush him with Austria and Italy. So I that's how you do it. And once you do that to somebody who moves to Armenia, they are probably going to seldom move there again for a long time, unless they've got a strong Austrian commitment to help them.
I think
So
that's great advice.
yeah, I was going to mention that before it all happened because I was like, this is exactly, and I know about this because it was done to me once, and I saw that and I was like, you know what? I don't know if that Armenia move is as great as some people, say it is. Unless you can work it out to where Russia agrees. I definitely don't think the fall you should move like this. I don't think you only should go to Romania if you have a strong AT and you know that that's going to be there, and then or if you don't know that, don't do that Romania hit. Try to get into Sev, try to get into Black Sea, but don't do the Romania hit. Let him in. And then that way too, you can play things off. Like you can just, drop that army down into Syria and then try to take the Black Sea and say, look, man, I wasn't against you. I just, I didn't know what was going to happen. And so maybe you get the Black Sea off it. But this commitment here, Riaz could have been out, because I can almost guarantee you if Russia would have done these moves, AI would have smelled blood and they would have gone all in.
Yeah, and I think what you're seeing now in the East with AI fighting.
So was that wasn't a real fight though, was it? I guess
No,
it
this
was,
is a real
wasn't it?
fight.
Wow.
This is a real fight.
Wow.
Italy told Austria that he would move to the Aegean, uh, or, or Tunis or whatever, and that Albania would go into the Ionian. However, they worked it. I can't remember, or that Ionian would go to Greece and Albania would go to Ionian. Anyways, Italy did not want to let Austria into the Ionian, and so made that convoy instead.
Oh, nice. So he just took Greece because he knew it was going to be open.
Correct.
Oh, okay. Good. Nice.
So that's
It's
what happened there. But this
that
really caused a lot of tensions between.
yeah.
Uh, really helpful to me. Okay, which is
Yeah.
there are the things you can control and the variables you can't control in diplomacy.
Hmm.
And the variable I couldn't control here was the Eastern shifting stubbornness of the players,
Right.
such to where it was so hard for the East to resolve. Whereas the West eventually had an FG that was just fairly unstoppable.
So did AI have a history or something that they just weren't going to work together, or just because of this game?
No, I don't know the backstory there. I think they're both very good players, but I think they're both good negotiators, right? So, and I just don't think they could reach conclusion. And I don't think Italy liked Austria's suggestions, and I don't think Austria liked Italy's suggestions. And then you get the most interesting move, one that ultimately helps me, this fleet build in Trieste by
Oh
Austria.
man.
Uh, you know, uh, which
Wow.
it is
That's
what it
that
is.
they always AI always dies when Austria decides to go all in unless you just have patsies behind you in Russia and Turkey. Just
But
too easy.
but there's an additional problem for Italy to my benefit now, which is the fleet build in Smyrna, because
Yeah.
under Italy's assumptions, there was going to be an IT at this point, and then Italy sees this fleet build in Smyrna and is trying to freak out, and then now trying to get back with AI. And the problem is there's no army, and it's just a
Wow.
massive problem for
Wow.
them. Meanwhile, everything's normal in the West where I'm at,
Yeah.
and uh, we just sort of press on is the best way to put it. And I'm sitting here looking at the eastern mess that's
Mm-hmm.
happening. And even though it's spring of '02, I'm 100% unworried about John. Like, I know John is going to be loyal. The way we're talking to each other, the way we've bonded, uh, it's almost the exact opposite of the experience you had, which is you guys were never on the same page. He and I were 100% on the same page.
Well, let's say the page's difference was I wanted us to leave each other alone and he wanted to attack me. That wasn't it was that was the pages was he wanted to attack me. My page was just leave me alone. So that's I mean it is what it is. It was a France and Italy uh issue, not a FG. So I'm glad to hear that you had a good run with him. That's good for me to file away that you can work with him.
Yeah, now I got a little mad. Okay. I probably should have moved to Helgoland here,
Oh yeah, I was
but
gonna
I
say
wanted
that.
to keep my
Yeah,
options open with Russia a
yeah,
little bit. And this is in the back of my mind, right? Which is Russia's telling me, no, I'm not going to help you to Skagerrak. I'm not.
mm,
And I'm like, dude, I just put you into Sweden. Like, you don't want to help me into Skagerrak? And he was like, no. So I moved to Denmark just in case he took a shot at Sweden, which I don't think he would have. But
right.
and I didn't know, but I didn't know she was going to prioritize the North Sea or Skagerrak. So that's kind of why I ended up moving there. But that
Yeah,
little not wanting to help me after I helped them kind of
yeah.
caused me to be like, well, I'm not attacking France. What am I going to do with these armies? I know Jason Massbaum told me I had to be concerned about Austria. Uh, so I'm like, I'm going to have some influence now in
Yeah,
the East. So I
yeah,
stuck those two armies over there, but without being on anybody, right? I can't
yeah.
really do anything to anybody. I'm just going to be annoying. That was my thought process.
Yeah, I really like that too because so often Germany, you know, in comparison to the last game we talked about where Germany like pretty much went all on anti-Russia and united the East against him and France or him in England or something. But whereas with you, yours is you see the disarray and you're like, well, I'll just kind of come down there, not attack. I'm not sending enough that's an attack, but just kind of keep things fluid. And I think that's a much smarter decision than what the German in your other game did.
Appreciate that. And the other
But
thing
I'm
was,
surprised.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm surprised he didn't support England into Skagerrak to just throw a little more um, to make things just a little more crazy. Because to me, this kind of moment with England being weak, France might have wanted to make his move on the north rather than just sit. Um, I'm not sure that that might have been a great moment actually. Well, I can see I can see kind of what's going on, I guess, but I would say after I saw the fall moves that happened with you in France, I would have probably built an army in St. Petersburg or even a fleet in St. Petersburg rather than Warsaw.
yeah. Well, the
Because there
problem
was
is
a
he's super concerned about Turkey.
sure, sure, but
Uh,
you can with your the 3 units they have there, you could probably not done well. Okay, so he had an army in Warsaw at the time. Okay, so he built Army Moscow. I'm trying to remember.
So, well, we'll look. But what I'm
Yeah, I get
telling
it. I
Ben
get
here
it.
is I'm here to help you, right?
Right.
You know, like
Right.
you're under threat, and also I didn't want Riaz to. You know, I hate the games where Turkey gets traction, unless I'm Turkey. Um,
Sure.
so I was like, I'm here to help you, man. You know, you got to help me. And so in my mind, I'm starting to get a little resentment at Ben here because he got mad when I did this. But I was like, I'm here to
Mhm.
help you. He's like, move away, move away. So
Okay, I was going to take a guess. I was going to guess that Austria is going to help Turkey here in this instance and try to go into an AT. Man, I'll tell you what, if I'm Austria, I like the idea of doing an AT, but there are certain players that are just a no-go as Turkey that I am not going to do an AT with you. Like I would do an AT with you, Ed. There's players that I would say you can be Turkey and I'll be Austria. But there's some players and I well,
it's just
you just
so easy for Turkey to stab eventually.
you need player if you're going to be Austria and do something with Turkey, you need someone that very much values alliance play above quick gains because those quick gains are oftentimes always there. And this is a very dangerous course that Austria is going with Riaz, I think.
Uh, yeah. I mean, but on the other hand, it's sort of out of options.
Well, he could have gone with Italy, but he chose to not go with Italy at that moment, in
Right.
the
Yeah.
spring. In the spring, he chose to take Greece over doing an air alliance against Turkey, which was on the table. That was definitely on the table there. And I probably would have been the way to go because, in my opinion, because he already had a fleet, right? So he's already kind of got some advantage over Italy, so that if he could just get a few builds, he can make his move on Italy and work with Russia. So I'm not sure this going with Turkey was the right play here, but I wasn't doing the diplomacy on the board.
So I think here the West, the FG was very lucky. Um, Melinda should have suspected that Denmark would support North and that she couldn't dislodge the North Sea, and I think she should have self bounced in York,
Oh yeah,
or self bounced in Wales.
yeah,
I only thought one of the two of these would go through, and we got both convoys on.
yeah, yeah. Should have done a double support or something like that.
Uh,
That Irish to the English Sea. I mean, I wonder what she thought was going to happen there. Maybe like she probably was very concerned about you thinking you were going to do an attack on London with support, maybe, but there was no
yeah,
way that was going to happen.
correct. Yeah, no, I
Yeah,
think that yeah. I mean,
yeah,
because
there needed to be a
right,
bounce.
yeah,
Hmm.
no, and I'd rather get position. But I mean, she wouldn't know that, but that's I'm more, and this was a time unlimited game, so
Yeah.
position's always best in those
It,
situations.
yeah, I feel like Ben's play right now is very, very passive. Like he's just letting the West develop without his hand in anything. So, with Sweden, he could have, if he wanted, bounce Denmark, right? Cut the support and given England a lifeline. And there's not a lot you can do at this moment against him. But I understand there's that whole thing going on with Warsaw and all that, but I think he's a little passive here. I think he needs to either have hit he either needs to work with you or help England and not just sit and wait it out because you're not gaining any friends that way and you're not building any good relationships. And again, I just want to say I think Austria should not have helped Turkey in this situation because I think even an air alliance is still on the table at this point. I'm sure Italy is saying to Austria, "Hey, this was wrong. You take Greece, we'll be good and we'll go forward." I think helping Turkey grow is a bad option here. Is a very bad option. In fact, this is bad. This is a very bad.
Well, it would get worse. Um,
Yes, you should have helped Russia 100%. This is terrible because what do you do next? Your entire fate is in whatever Turkey wants to give you. That's it. This is really, really bad. So
yeah, no. So I'm
I'm
looking at the
guessing, yeah,
situation.
I'm guessing you're going to help Italy in this moment.
Actually, my pitch to them is you can't take Trieste with Venice, and you can't take Budapest. But if you put me into Vienna, or if you cut Budapest, Ben, I can get into Vienna, and then I can help both Trieste, and I can help Italy go to Trieste and Galicia to Budapest.
Yeah, it's good. So you're very much, I'm going to work with IR here, and we're going to go against AT.
Yes,
Okay.
that's totally the plan, but it wouldn't be a game I played without a misorder.
Oh man.
Everybody did what they said except for me. I stared at this for 5 minutes trying to figure out what I did wrong, not
Yeah, you just
realizing that I just
support the
supported
whole.
Bohemia as opposed
Yeah.
to supporting the attack to Vienna. And
Yeah.
I'm like, are you kidding me? And
I wish they would show you, like, in real time that you have a support not, that's not valid. I don't know why Backstabber doesn't show you that. I mean, it should show you in that moment that red, like if you've got Tyrolia supporting Bohemia and you've got Bohemia moving, it should show that support is red, in my opinion, right at the beginning. It should show you that, because you would never write it that way. And it's a lot of times it's just weird clicks. I had that happen. A
in
weird
your
thing like
game
that
on
happened.
episode 1.
Yeah, I had a weird thing like that where, and not only that, it looked like I was supporting it because of the way it was up there in the north and how they've set it up. So it looked that the only way you would even be able to know it is if you actually looked at the orders themselves, because it looked exactly like it was valid. So I
No,
think
correct.
I don't think it would be that hard. I mean, to show that, hey, what you put in is an invalid order. And most of those, a lot of the other platforms do that. They'll show you that this is not a correct one. Like Conspiracy does that. And I'm not sure on the others, but I know Conspiracy will show an invalid order right off the bat, and I don't think that would be a hard thing to do.
Right. Um, Now, the other thing of note here is I've got 2 additional worries. 3 actually. One is France said he wanted to move to Burgundy, and I wasn't too thrilled about that, but I really did believe he was on my side, so I was like, okay. And he's like, just to mess with their minds a bit. And normally when I hear that, I would think bad play, but when I heard it from him, I actually believed it. So I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, fine.
Me and you must not have talked about him before the game started then.
So, yeah,
Because I
correct.
would
We
have
didn't.
you would have probably gone with England if I'd given you my assessment, if I'd known he was in there.
I probably would have, and I probably would have regretted it.
Right, you would have. Yeah, you would have.
And so here, I have this conversation with John, and I'm like, John, the only way for a partnership, to work is, we have to have even builds. And so, you've got one build up on me, you've got 2 fleets, you're in the North Sea. I go, this has got to work to where I get 2 out of the 3 dots of England. And he's like, totally fair. We'll do it. And I'm like, okay, great. I mean, no argument, no pushback. And I was like, okay, I think that's right. And Russia at this point comes to me and he's like, help me into Galicia. I mean, you got to help me into Vienna now. And I realized I do. He goes, that way I can build north and I can come help you kill France. And I'm like, I don't need your help against France. Because really at this point I'm tethered with France, and
yeah.
But also I figured if I had to, I could stab France without any help from Russia.
Well, Russia's not going to be able to do anything.
Yeah.
Let me send a fleet north so I can help you against France. Or how about you send a fleet north so you can take everything that Germany has and split you with France? Come on, man.
But you guys,
what are you going to do?
Your dots in the south, right? You got a lot of growth.
Did he also offer to send his armies through Munich to help with France too?
He didn't. So
he didn't go that far. Okay.
So Ben asked for Galicia, and I feel like I owed it to him given the misorder, and so I put him in. Yeah. Which, as it turns out, that misorder was a blessing in disguise because overall it weakened Russia and Italy.
Well, the only danger here is you got him fighting Austria and not Turkey. So that's kind of the danger going on right now. Is you really want them focused on Turkey, but so weakening Austria is just letting Turkey continue to carve out a bigger foothold.
Right. And well, you're prescient because this is exactly what happens.
Well,
Meanwhile, it's
and he could have got Romania too. That's the other killer. Like, you know, he had the ability to actually take it. It was there.
yeah. Uh, Meanwhile, it's sort of mopping up operations against England, and you notice that France wants to move towards Italy right away. And I do nothing to discourage this. And I advise France that if he wants to do that, he's going to have to follow up with a fleet build in Marseille. Okay. So this is where things start getting tense with Ben, even though if the listeners note, I've put him into Sweden, I've put him into Vienna. He can owe his entire game to me so far. I build in Berlin, and I purposely built in Berlin to have continuing pressure on the East. And I knew for a fact that he was not going to help me dislodge Norway. Every time I had been talking to him about dislodging Norway, he was like, I can't, she'll retreat to St. Petersburg. And, I just can't do it. And I'm like, okay, I understand. I get your point. So I moved there. And, I'm like, but I knew you're building Warsaw, but I told him that France insisted that I not build in Munich or Kiel. And he bought that. That wasn't true, Ben. That was a lie, but I could have built anywhere I wanted. But I felt like that was the best build for me, given the situation.
Yeah, it's just discouraging him a little bit.
Right. So at this point, I'm like, all right, Italy, I'll help you get into Trieste. Russia, he wanted to put me into Galicia, and I'm like, no, you're not getting it. You need to go to Galicia, right? Turkey's the enemy.
Right.
Turkey's the enemy.
Right.
Why do you want me there? And he's like, okay, I'll move to Galicia if you move out of Berlin. And I said, okay. So I got France to bounce me in Munich.
I can't. Yeah, I just tell you, like, for me, I think maybe that stuff works with some people, but at least for me, like, I see that stuff. You guys have been cooperating, and I'll be like, my thought process would be, does Germany really think I'm this stupid? I mean, it doesn't like burn anything down, but that stuff to me always
I didn't think he was stupid, but I wanted some plausible deniability. But that is, and then Ben goes, you arranged that. That's BS. And I'm like, I will get the army out 100% in the fall, and it won't go towards you. I said, I'm sorry, mea culpa.
Right. Sure.
Meanwhile, now that fleet, of course, is brutal because he can't defend. Austria can't really defend, and now I can take Vienna. I think this is. Oh, I don't do that actually. Yeah. So, what happens at this point is, Ben's like, what do you guys want to do? Here, and Italy's like, France is coming after me. You need to move to Piedmont. And I'm like, that's a great idea. I'll move to Piedmont. No problem. And he goes, you shouldn't move Bohemia to Tyrolia. I really wouldn't like that. And I was like, okay. I didn't say yes or no. I just heard that wouldn't be good for me. Meanwhile, I know France is pressing. I'm helping. France and I are coordinating sort of all these moves. And if you notice, we work it out in such a way as to where I pick up Edinburgh and now can arrange a self bounce in Liverpool to where I will get the 2 out of 3 dots, period. So I'm liking how all this is sort of turning out for me. And I decide to dislodge Norway, and she does not, in the fall, she does not retreat to St. Petersburg. She felt loyal to Ben. She's a very loyal player, maybe the most loyal diplomacy player ever. I kind of would have liked to retreat to St. Petersburg, but she didn't do it. And as you can see, I pick up Norway, I pick up Edinburgh here. And so here, I think France should have started to think, hey, we were talking about even dot building, but now I'm jumping up ahead by 1. So we have this great position now on Italy. Period. Which which is fine.
Yeah.
I will say here, I told Italy that France was going to press on them, so this is why Italy put in this series of moves as opposed to
Mhm.
working out. But fine. Uh, Meanwhile, I know that Russia will get Trieste back in the fall.
Yeah.
All of this is certain.
I don't understand Russia prioritizing killing Austria over Turkey in this situation. I don't get it.
Well, I think he figured this is where he could get his dot.
I guess so.
And so, he wasn't going to get a dot anywhere else.
Yeah.
So I guess maybe he
I,
could have taken Romania.
I mean, like, there's definitely, and who knows, Reyes is probably making some promises to Russia in this regard too. I'll give you back Romania, these kind of things. So there's probably some promises happening. So I'm sure Reyes is doing a good job on this. I mean, it's not a terrible play for Russia because Russia's going to start carving some stuff out. I I don't completely understand Russia not helping England early on though. That part I don't, or at least getting into play with what was going on. Just kind of sitting back and watching that. I think he's letting opportunities go away. You either need to try to keep balance there, or be a part of the destruction. And just
Right.
sitting back, I think you're losing opportunity to top the board by doing that.
He never asked for Norway.
Mm.
But I think, that speaks to me trying to work with Ben. Every time Ben was talking to me, I was not trying to manipulate him. I was trying
Yeah.
to problem solve for him.
Yeah.
Right. That's
Yeah.
what I learned from Village Idiot a lot, which is to try and help figure out what's motivating the player and how can our interests align.
Right. Hmm.
And I got out of Berlin. I did exactly what I promised him to do
Hmm.
because I knew this series of moves. I knew the Tuscany move couldn't be stopped. And I knew the Piedmont move couldn't be stopped. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be, you
Wow.
know,
It's surprising.
fantastic.
Yeah, it's surprising. See, that's where it's surprising me that Italy trusted you with all that information just because, like, there's a big difference between working, giving somebody information in the area that matters and information in the area that doesn't. And it had to be pretty clear that you weren't going to be making the move on France, nor that you could. So, I mean, you were going to be working with them.
Now, this was a little controversial, Humble, on DBN. David Hood
Hmm.
criticized it, and I'm not a player of his caliber, but I waived my other build.
Mm.
I did that because my diplomacy was such that I don't want to appear, I don't want Ben to draw any units towards me. My
Yeah.
total argument to Ben is you need to go after Turkey. There are lots of dots
Right.
there. He's been attacking you from the beginning. If
Yeah.
you move your dots towards me, Turkey's just going to come up behind you. Riaz is too good. You can't trust
Yeah.
him. And I told him I'd get my dots off of Italy.
Yeah.
Uh, so
Huh.
here, just given the way things went down, I knew the move to Venice was guaranteed for France. So we eliminate that army.
Well,
Russia jumps in. I'm sorry, Turkey jumps in on the killing of Austria, and I just slip an army into Bohemia. And since England's out, France moves to Norwegian. I move to Denmark. Uh, that should have been a sign that I was going to go take Sweden to bed.
right. Right.
Um, but
I don't think it was terrible to waive the build in the sense that, this is a pretty, pivotal moment for you because England's gone and now you have to say what's my next step. And so, I mean, this is a really complicated spot to where it's a really important decision on, are you going to stay there in the West or are you going to do East and try to pick up some stuff? And so if you're not really sure what you're going to do or need, waiving a build's not a terrible decision at all because you can make your move and then have that build optimally put where you want. So I don't think it's a bad move if you're not sure what to do.
I think David's suggestions were geared at the next obvious move is for me to stab France.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't agree with that. I think because you're not going to solo by stabbing France. if you're going to solo, it's going to come because you lock down the stuff you need in Russia and then stab France. And if we're talking about in the normal way you go about it. It would be you getting some units from Russia quick and then dropping on France before he gets the Italian builds. That's going to be how you solo in a linear way. So no, I don't think hitting France first is the way to go because everyone's going to go against you as soon as if you get anything there. So I would meekly disagree.
So around this time or just before, one of the influencers, uh, which I think is pivotal to understanding the game, was uh, France. He, France wasn't really. He was talking to Italy a little bit, but he wasn't talking much to anyone else. But everyone's trying to talk to him, saying, you know, criticizing him and going in there and being mad at him, and that was the wrong
Yeah,
approach
John doesn't respond well at all
to that
to
to
that.
John.
Yeah, no,
He didn't like that, and
no.
but he had so many of these people kind of come in there. He goes, "Look, I know one of us can stab the other, but I'm enjoying this game. I'm having a lot of fun with this game, and I want to take this as far as we can take it together with you and me on top." And I'm like, "Great, that's what I want to hear." He goes, "But," he goes, uh, "I had a really bad diplomacy experience with another player, uh, Morgante. It's out. Everyone knows it's Morgante. I I didn't put his name out there. I had a bad experience with Morgante
Well,
in another game."
you did, but you just have already done it before this podcast.
Right. Uh, and because of that, I see Morgante. I'm looking at the scores in the other games, and right now he's leading. He's got more points than you, and we're gonna have a really good game here. So if it comes down to it, you can have the board top. I will do whatever it takes for you to have a score higher than Morgante's. Period.
Mm,
And
mm.
I was like, "I'm sorry to hear about your bad experience." I didn't try and dissuade him, but I tried to empathize with him, right? And be like,
Yeah,
"That was really bad. And my goal here is for you to have a good experience. Uh, let's play together. Let's have fun." And so, we evened up the dots here with him getting into Venice in the spring. And then at this point, right, I've got sort of a really good argument to make to him that, uh, he can keep that dot. I'm taking Sweden. Get me down into Tuscany. We, sort of coordinate these moves. And uh, he moved to Barents as I pushed Sweden out. And so now I'm like sort of
yeah,
super. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah. I don't think this was a very great. So let me say two things on that. First of all, the hobby is too small to hold grudges, and so things get heated, things get said in the game. Like even in our game, that John and I had, um, you know, when the game finished up, I even just reached out to him and said, "Look, man, I want you to know I'm good with you," and because you got everybody responds to challenges and difficulties in different ways, and I think it's always really important. You want everybody leaving a game to have a good to be good with everybody. And so sometimes, that means just saying, okay, I'm not, apologizing, even if you don't have to apologize for anything, because you don't want a situation where you have somebody on another board saying, I want to try to keep that person from winning. And first of all, with the outcome of this game, he definitely accomplished that, not in the way he wanted it to, but he definitely accomplished that. So, the hobby's too small for that. So I'd encourage John and others too. Like if you have an issue with a person, talk it through afterwards, and um you want to be making the best decisions for you. And there's nothing wrong with helping somebody do a little better. I mean, I'm not against that. I'm not saying there's some deep-seated hatred or something going on there, but
Well,
it's
I
it
no, but I think like Bill Hackenbrack said at one point, you've got to understand what the other person's win conditions are and work with it.
Sure.
So I
Well,
understand what his win
and you
condition.
want to take it, sure, you want to play that out, you personally, like in that moment, you're doing exactly what you need to do. But I just encourage people, like, if you've got to be able also to play the game and not hold things personally too, because lots of things happen when you're trying to, argue, or when your game's getting hurt. And it's just, I'd always say, if this game bring it reveals things about people and reveals stuff about ourselves, and I think that's a good thing. I think that's a healthy thing. You can grow from that. But at the same time, there's definitely players that would probably do better to get, some control over some things before they play diplomacy. And I'm not saying that's anybody on this board or anything, but
Well,
it's
I don't
better to
think
play
John
the
needed control over anything. I will tell you this, which is the epilogue to that story is I think John and Morgante have patched things up,
good.
and that they've you know uh, talked to each other and worked through whatever their issues were. But
Yeah.
uh, the other side of that is people who are brand new to the hobby. Like we need more players, not fewer, right?
Right.
And uh, veteran players should be, and there are a lot of veteran players here, should be sensitive to newer players. And I'm not talking about Morgante in particular, but a newer player is going to not have just the body of experience that a veteran player
Right.
will have, and
Right.
they can't react harshly when the newbie, so to speak,
Yeah.
types in all caps, to use a metaphor, who
Yeah.
doesn't know how to use the internet a little bit. You just gradually bring them along. And
Yep.
uh, the fact in this game that other players were just venting to John only reinforced his willingness to
Yeah.
help me.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to try to discern who are the really, like, some people, if you push, they'll acquiesce, and other people, if you push, they're gonna immediately stonewall and become stubborn. And even though what they're doing, maybe even if they step back would know is wrong, they're still going to stick with it because, well, that person told me to do it, so I'm not going to, you know. And you got trying to figure that out is one of the arts of diplomacy.
So I'm really happy with this series of moves, except for Turkey letting Sevastopol into Romania. But I was super happy with Russia going to St. Petersburg. I knew he had to cover it. I was hoping he'd go there so he couldn't build there.
See, I would have supported Denmark into Sweden and moved the fleet into Denmark. In this, if I knew Norwegian was going to Barents and I was confident of that, I would have made that move.
I went back and
Because
forth on it.
okay,
I really did. I think you're right. Tactically, I think you're going to see not a lot of good Scandinavian play for me coming
okay,
up. In all honesty,
yeah, because you
but
could do that fleet kill and then push that into the Baltic, and now you're trucking, and you move that army. Um, after you take the Baltic, then you can start moving that army over, and plus you want to have something in Norway anyway, so that then you can attack St. Petersburg. So yeah, you wanted to do Denmark to Sweden, North Sea to Denmark, build that fleet and kill to push into Baltic, Army Berlin, all of that. That would have been the optimal way to do it.
yeah, I think I was concerned about a retreat to um, Denmark or Sweden when I pushed Baltic out, but I could have covered that with North Sea. I just didn't think it through in the
Yeah,
moment.
North Sea to Denmark's what you wanted. Yeah.
That's what I should have done, and I didn't. But I was also benefiting from the fact that Ben apparently forgot that I had a build in pocket. He thought I was
Mm,
only getting one build with Sweden, um,
that's easy to forget.
and
You
and
know.
not two. So I knew my line here was short up, and there wasn't really much they could do to
No.
stop it. And
Yeah.
so at this point, I'm like, okay,
And in all this time, still RT can't come together.
no, that was arranged to blow the fleet up.
Okay.
It's
Well,
a
good.
spring move, so you'll see the fleet move out in the fall.
Okay.
Here, I really like my diplomacy. I was like, you got to, John, you got to put me into Venice. And
What's with not moving Kiel to Baltic? What's the reasoning there?
oh, Why didn't I do that? I know I really thought about that.
Because
Let's see.
now you have to cover Sweden. There's what else do
I
you have
can't
Kiel to
remember.
do?
I can't remember why I thought that. Unless
Okay.
I thought I might need it later against John if I
I
had
don't
to.
I don't understand. Yeah, I'm not completely
No,
understanding because you're not. You would have had St. Petersburg like for sure this year, um, with some basic movements on some things. Oh
yeah, but
well, anyway.
understand my motivation here is really not to be. I think I'm going to put you in my psychological mindset as opposed to a tactical one.
Hmm.
My psychological mindset is to be sort of at war with Ben. I've taken Sweden, but I really kind of want to make the case to Ben. You're not going to get anything off me, and you're just going to have juicy dots for Turkey as you continue to move up the line. And I agree. I could have put more pressure on him. Uh, Maybe that was in my mind, but I'd be lying if I told you I remembered that specifically. Uh,
Well, yeah. To me, the way it's all going is you get your Russian dot. You get Russia in the north. Turkey's going to get a little bit in the south, and you guys press Turkey until he you get the dots that you need or something like that.
so this wasn't so bad for me, right? Because at this point, uh, even though France takes the Tyrrhenian, and I had put him into Rome and I double supported him,
Hmm.
he lost Rome to Turkey.
Yeah,
And my various thought processes are these: one, Turkey doesn't have a lot of fleets; we can get it back. Two, really helps me versus John in terms of dot distribution. And then overall, I'm like, my line is good. I'm not going to have a lot of problems. But, maybe like I said, I wasn't pleased with my tactical play in the North, but I was very happy with what was happening in the South, which is where I was. And it's also hard for diplomacy. I mean, everyone's fighting for their tournament life right here. Ben's fighting for
right.
DBNI, Turkey's fighting for DBNI, and you spend a lot of time talking to these people, and it's difficult to get it all done in a certain amount.
Sure.
So we get here though, and it's 10-8-8-8. I see this happen. I go look at the scores. Uh, I'm in the lead. I'm ahead of Morgante. I'm winning, and it's the winter. And so I say to the people, I say to everybody, I go, will you indulge me in a speech? I go, this is hard. I go, this is hard for me. Okay. I said, because normally I like to share board tops.
Are you talking about the making a speech or the draw?
The speech, no, making the speech to give myself the draw with the board top. I
No, I
go,
think you like these moments personally.
well, I, I, I don't, I'm not in a disposition very often.
It's like it's going there before the going before the Senate. Men, ladies and gentlemen, lend me your ears. Let
Yeah,
me speak for unity.
yeah. I'm like, look at the map. I go, I can continue to grind it out against Russia in the north. Can't defend everything. Uh, Italy's gone to France. The fleets will get there too late to do anything about it. I go, so I know I'm giving up a dot 11, but I'm happy at this point. John's
Yeah.
been a good ally to me. You, Russia, Turkey, you're only going to go down. So at this point, I propose a draw where it's 10-8-8-8. And Russia and Turkey go, we agree, let's draw. And John is like,
Quick
yeah,
question. Did you ever follow up with like Riaz and say, were you really going to accept at that point?
no. But it seemed that
Okay,
he
but
like he would.
be curious to know.
It seemed like he
Okay.
would. John says, I'd like to talk to Ed. And Ben's like, well, what is there to talk about? Like, what is there to talk about? And I'm like, look, let me just hear the man out. I go, what can he say? And I actually thought that he was going to ask me for one more dot to make it 9988.
Mhm.
I really did. Uh, which I would not have agreed to.
Mm-hmm.
And
Now, why is that?
Because that would have taken me out of the lead of the tournament.
Okay, so your thought is I want to win this.
Yeah. I mean, it's been
Gotcha.
14 hours.
Yeah. No, I
Uh,
think that's good. I think that's good. I'm just trying. I want everybody to really understand the real Ed Sullivan here. So I'm just trying to pull this out.
not the fake person I play in every episode and every game.
Correct. Yes.
Right. I disagree entirely, but okay. So he comes in and says, I've been watching the tournament, and yeah, Morgante's kind of out of it, but I'm really invested now in you for sure winning it. And I don't think
Mhm.
you have enough points. Like, I don't think you have enough. Uh, he's like, you need to take 2 dots off of me. You need to go
Man,
up to 12.
you must be feeling great right now.
And I'm like, okay. I
Yeah.
can work with this.
If you insist.
And so we go back to the other 2. And I said, let me tell you what John told me. And I repeat it. And I say, I was not pushing John for this. I would take 10-8-8-8, and I still will. But this is John's decision. And the good news for you, Russia and Turkey, is it increases your tournament score because now you don't have to share.
Which is not true, by the way, but we'll continue.
I thought
made
that
sure
was true.
No, anytime that the leader goes higher, it's never good for those younger. I mean, those smaller than them, because you're getting more and more points they have to pay you. Now, it's not a significant amount. It's like maybe 0.5 or something like that their score goes down. But no, this is not true. This is why knowing the scoring system is important.
Well, I will tell you, I honestly believed it to be true.
Oh, I know.
And
I agree. I'm sure you did.
and they were like, yeah. And then I got a little worried about Riaz because he's like, I'm like, I go, let me see where I can take 2. I can take Belgium. And Ben goes, oh, you can convoy Tuscany to Spain. And John's like, yeah, let's do that. And I'm like, hate to give up my position, but if we're going to draw, okay. And I'm getting a dot. I can't be that disappointed by it. And Riaz starts asking for all this other stuff. And we're like, no, we're not moving anything back except Tuscany's moving.
Yeah.
Tuscany's going to move. And so we all agree. And then boom.
Yeah.
Riaz does not agree.
Okay, so let me make a little statement to the I get what Riaz is doing. We all have this impulse in us. The centers are there. Why not grab them? Here's the thing. When the alliance on the other side of the board has a player that's literally wanting to give centers to someone else, that is not the moment to get greedy. That is the moment to say, you know what? It was a good game. This is how it's ending. I'm not going to destroy the one ally that's standing with me against the guy that wants to give centers to someone else. So
Correct.
this is in my opinion, a very bad strategic decision. If you're ever playing and there's an alliance and one of the guys wants to give centers away, do not stab your ally. That is not the play that you want to make because you know that you're creating solo opportunities right there.
So this really upsets Ben.
Mm-hmm.
And it upsets John. Although John, nothing really happened to John, but John was really mad, right, for the integrity of the board that this had occurred. And Riaz goes, hey, Ed, can I talk to you? And I'm like, oh, okay. And he goes, I am a face-to-face player. And the way this went down, this throwing dots really, really rubs me the wrong way. I don't think it's the right way to play.
Especially because you're the one getting them. It really bugs me.
I don't think this is the right way to play.
Yeah.
So what I propose is I'm fine with you being second because I feel like I would have been second no matter what. But I don't think I could have ever been first. And I really need the points for DB and I. So will you support me in my bid to be second? And I said, well, I don't think it's up to me because you really angered the other 2, but let's go talk to him. And I went in the other 2 and I said what Riaz said. I was like, Riaz just feels like this whole thing went down wrong. He felt it was a little dirty, and uh, uh, he wants to be second. And Ben and John are like, no way, we can't. No way. And you know what? I can't lose John. I could lose Ben, right? Like
Right.
but I couldn't lose John. Uh, it's
Well, you
not
don't have
going
any
to.
reason to work with Riaz either. Him growing just hurts your score. So,
Well, yeah. Well, and so, yeah, correct. And at this point, I was like, okay, so it was the three of us against Riaz, and Ben's goal here is to get, all of his dots back. So,
right.
what you see for the rest of the game isn't very tactically interesting, right? It's just, a continual push where I sort of move my units down, with Ben agreeing not to build north because all he cares about are Turkish dots. He's not going to come after any of my dots. Me
Yeah, I
just
just
sort of moving around,
I
uh,
yeah,
you
yeah, I
know.
just want to put to rest this whole idea of integrity. I have played on a board with Riaz, and I can say he would have taken the dots just as much as you were. And I like Riaz; he's a good player. I don't have anything against him. But this whole thing of it has nothing to do with anything going down wrong. This stuff happens more in face to face than it does anywhere else. So they were talking about it there on the broadcast about how people, they're watching it and trying to get different people to win, and it's all part of the game. This has more to do with I think he saw play that he could get some more points, and it just really wasn't there. The play wasn't there. It was there in the short term, but not in the. Have you talked with him at all
Yeah,
since the
I mean,
game?
not since the game, but in the game we had a long after game discussion. Um, uh, he felt apologetic, genuinely regretful at what he had done. I know he and Ben had a conversation about it. Uh, and, during the game, of course, at this point, he's like, hey, it's 13-7-7-7. Let's draw.
Right.
Like that's better than 12-8-8-6 for
Mm-hmm.
you, Germany. And Ben's like, I'm not going to draw until I'm at least at 8. At least I'm in the position I was, before the stab. And that's where I'm going to be.
Yeah.
And and so there's nothing I could
That
really
was
say.
dangerous. Yeah, that's yeah.
But
And I
what
think you said something before about how Ben was like, I want people to know that they shouldn't stab me or something like that.
Right, yeah. Ben was just like, I need to make a message that you can't stab me, right? And that I'm
Okay.
willing, and that I'm
That's
willing to throw my back to a solo to do it.
no,
Uh,
that's not the message you want to send, because you think you're sending this message of, oh, don't even think about stabbing me. But here's what you really communicate. You communicate to players that he's too unpredictable to be a game long ally. Because at this point, you should have put your emotions aside and just ended the game. It didn't matter. You now were just playing for spite. That's all you're playing for. The game is, you're not going to get a better game than right now. And it's not going to matter. Even if you take a few points from Riaz, who cares? At the end of the day, he went for it. It didn't work. Just end the game. Don't create a greater solo opportunity. So I think what you really communicate in this setting is you tell people you're somebody that is emotionally charged enough, and that and other players will then try to use that against you for their benefit. So they'll try to get you mad at somebody else. They'll try to get something on the board because they know that in the moment, when it comes to make the right decision, you'll play out of emotion rather than what's best on the board. So I don't think people that do that communicate the best thing. Get the position you need and just be willing to stop.
so I was absolutely hamstrung if a draw had been agreed to
Right.
at 13-7-7-7. I would have been the only, or maybe John would have vetoed it publicly, but I doubt it, right? Like
Yeah.
it would have been, by this time I'm far and away the tournament leader on the score sheet. I have no excuse to
You
keep
might have still got a
going.
solo. You could have maybe forced it in spring 1910 anyway. What are you at, 13?
Yeah,
So you're
I'm
good.
at 13.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I could
I
have.
think you got it. I think you have it by this point. It's going to
Well,
be really,
I
really
did
hard.
right here.
Yeah, you do now.
Yeah. So, but I just, I clarified it on DBN. I think they thought they were giving me this solo as opposed to
Right.
Ben trusting that I wouldn't do what he knew I could do.
Yeah.
But because I didn't want to hurt, I'm really happy Ben made DBNI anyways. But I think he thought at this point he wasn't going to make it.
Yeah.
That I had taken him out of DBNI just to get a solo.
Yeah.
And the truth is, I wanted to actually win a tournament,
Right.
and
Yeah.
I mean, it was right there. I looked at the math and I realized even if other people have soloed, and two other people did,
Right.
they couldn't catch up with me.
Right. No, no, you can't. No one's gonna blame this. Yeah, how many times do you get a chance like this to guarantee a solo, and you'll be kicking yourself for a while not to take that chance to win a tournament. It's very, very difficult to win a tournament, and I, as somebody who's gotten, in the four that I played, I've gotten 13th, fourth, and seventh. It is really difficult to win. You can play good games, and still you don't know what's happening on other boards, and so for you to have a chance to get it, you take it. You have to take it.
So there we end up with me at 20. I will point out
Mhm.
I could have gotten to 21,
Oh,
but
such restraint.
I took the 20 and I won the tournament. You see the two other solos right behind me.
Yep, it's good. Great.
Congratulations to Jackson Roberts and to Matt Krill for being second and third.
Yeah. There's a lot to learn from this game because there's a lot of things that you did and that, I think even like for like myself, I would find on some of this, like centers you left open and stuff, like I would have a hard time personally doing it. But I think, but it's a testament to your ability to forge alliances and to forge trust that you were able to get yourself to this position, and you literally won this straight on diplomacy. This it wasn't a tactical grind it out. I mean, you made some, I think, some really solid strategic decisions at times. I think sending some units in there to play in the east and just kind of keep things balanced, I think was really, really, really wise. And I think a lot of German players miss doing that and instead are constantly in attack mode. And so there's a lot to learn from this, but you won the straight through diplomacy. And to me, you can't get a more appropriate way of soloing a game. And so very impressive to me. One of the most impressive wins. It wasn't just a win where, like, we've seen some of these solos come about that are like, it's really just taking advantage of a new player that doesn't know the knife that's over them. And this this wasn't that. You were diplomatically working these players to get the solo, and so very, very impressive.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm also really happy that Ben and Riaz both made DB and I, as did you. So the four of
Hmm.
us will have a chance to hash this out with 24 other players in a few weeks. And I really enjoyed, not because he was on my side, but John Archbold is going to be a good player in the game of diplomacy if he keeps doing it. And
Sure.
trust me, I lost many games. I in my champions corner, I took about what I had to do to recognize about myself, and still do. I have many weaknesses to try and improve. So thanks for the nice compliments, and I appreciate you letting me brag on myself, which I'm not used to doing. I like to be self-critical.
Well, and I'll say I don't know necessarily why this was the case, but I feel like Cascadia, this tournament, I feel like I improved more from this tournament than any other, just learning some things, not just tactically and strategically, but I think some diplomatic things too, um, that were very helpful. And some of it was learning some stuff from some other players. But this was a really good tournament for me too, going to DB, and I feel like I grew in that. And then just watching how you do some things, like there's a lot that people have to learn with how you play because it's it is different than a lot of other players that normally score higher. And so I think it's a very refreshing way to play. And I think people are seeing the results. It's not just people letting you in. You're really doing a great job on the diplomacy front. So I think there's a lot that people have to learn from how you played this tournament in particular, and I think it's good for the hobby too. And by the way too, with Ben and Riaz, it's commenting. So I have things to say, and just if you go back and listen to mine, you'll see ways I've criticized myself, and I'm sure they would find ways to criticize me too for decisions I made. It's diplomacy, but I'm looking forward to, if I'm on the same board with them, getting to have a chance to do an alliance there. I'm trying to cover my bases because I don't want anyone coming into it.
Well,
I
look,
don't want
they're
anyone
both
coming into a game being like, "Hey, he criticized me, so I'm going to try to take him out."
both Riaz and Ben are Alliance players, right? I mean, I played
Yeah.
with them, and
Yes, for sure.
their preferred. That's their preferred
Yeah.
method.
Yeah. He did some
So
great stuff on the board. I was, my second round in Weasel, I came out of round one basically in first because the person in front of me wasn't going to be doing round two. So I came out in first to get to the top 7 for Weasel, and he was on my board, and he really played that real. I mean, like, I think he could have gone for a solo, but he hadn't done round one, so it wasn't really worth it for him to push. But he played a really great game, as well as several others. I got eliminated as Italy, which was too bad. It was disappointing, but no, I'm an impressive player, and diplomacy's tough at the end. It can be really, really tough, and especially if you're very competitive, you want to get those good scores. So we've all been there, and made mistakes.
yeah, well, he's leading the speedboat league. He's in DBNI. I'm not feeling too bad for him. He'll do great.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and he, and Ben will as well. You can just look at his body of results. So
But
yeah,
question becomes, how is this going to affect your DBNI reputation now coming in?
I hope not at all, but I'll deal with it if it does. I think every other player in the 27 would have done the exact same thing I did.
Sure, sure. Well, and here's the other thing too, like, you look over this list, like, every single board is going to be tough. There's no weak links really. I mean, there's some that are maybe a little bit newer to the format, but um all these games are going to be very, very interesting because this is the top 27 out of, probably, like, just on the virtual side, I'd probably say, we probably had 150 to 200 players.
Yeah, I think there's over 200 listed in the DBNI database.
Yeah, and so this is a very this I mean, like, to get on this wasn't easy either. I mean, like, some people just played a ton of games. That's just mind-boggling, the amount of games they played. But I mean, I think like half that 28 are like tournament winners. So, anyone else that makes it in is just like scoring really highly in a lot of tournaments, and it's going to be a very, very I don't think there's been ever anything like this in diplomacy that had an invitational with this level of play. So this is a really unique thing in diplomacy. I'm not familiar with anything like it. So it's going to be well worth tuning into, and hopefully, some of us, will make it into the final game.
Yeah, I don't count on that, but if any DBNI players are listening out there, what I am is the safe space on your board for growing.
Yeah.
Where you got a bunch of sharks, you're going to need somebody that can work with you to help navigate away from the sharks. That, my friend, is
Yeah.
Go Horns Go.
And it's a powerful, powerful argument. So it's a powerful argument to make.
So
Because
we will see.
you've got a pretty good reputation, at least by the people that do the broadcasts. So they really play up Ed Sullivan and the fun he is to play with. So
there are a few haters, believe it or not, but that's okay. People
Yeah.
people can hold grudges, and that's a bad way to live your life. But I understand it, and I'm not upset about it.
No, you don't. Well, I would say this: if you get on a board with Ed Sullivan, you don't want to be the one that he knows that you don't like him, because enough people like you that I don't want to be trying to play an influence game on niceties with Ed. I would. That's not the path I want to go down.
All right, Brother Humble, we're going to have to call it a wrap on this episode. Thank you so much. Thanks to diplomacybriefing.com And you have a good evening, sir.
All right, you too. Thanks.